Oh, hello. I'm Marjorie Molina, and I am the council representative for District 5 in East Charlotte. And today I am really excited to introduce an extra special guest. And we're gonna just have a conversation about one of the most substantial developments in East Charlotte, and that development is Eastland Yards, the former Eastland Mall property. And we're going to talk about the completion of this development, what it is, what it's been, and just some things you need to know about this project and all that it is and what it has meant to East Charlotte and our city. So that particular special guest is none other than Mr. Tim Sittema. And Tim is going to tell you who he is, what he does, and how he's involved. He is the most substantial decision maker in this from a private sector perspective. So, Tim, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Marjorie. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to the conversation around
Absolutely.
Eastland Yards. I'm managing partner of Crosland Southeast. We're the master developer that was selected by the city in 2018 to lead the redevelopment of the former Eastland Mall site. And we've been working on it now for 7 years.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we've got a lot of progress now finally to show for it and more progress to come. And again, I look forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. So, Tim, wow, 2018. First of all, let's go back. Eastland Yards is the new name, but Eastland Mall is this, staple that means so much to so many. Tell me, I know you know a lot about Eastland Mall, but just kind of a snippet. Tell me, what do you know about Eastland Mall and what it's meant to the people in
Well,
East
it
Charlotte?
was it was one of the first of its kind in the country back in I think 1970 when it was
Mm-hmm.
developed. It was at one point I think the largest regional mall in the country, and it was wildly successful until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Demographic changes and competitive landscape changes
Mm-hmm.
and several other factors led to the mall's gradual demise, and ultimately that mall closed, and the city wisely acquired the properties, and started trying to figure out what the next chapter for that property would look like sometime around 2010, I think.
Yep.
And then there were several attempts at a redevelopment
Yep.
there. None of those were successful, and that led the city to rethink their approach, and ultimately we were selected after a competitive process in 2018.
I remember that well. Just a little background, where it relates to how I understand this. I remember a lot of those different ideas. We've had some interesting ideas of what that project could be, right? 90 acres of development, mixed use. There's so much going on. And I know people, they're driving by and they're finally seeing buildings and they don't know what those buildings are or what's in those buildings. First of all, let's make sure we say master developer. Tell people what that means.
So, as you mentioned, the site is 80 or 90 acres. It was a little smaller, and then we actually assembled some additional land because we felt we needed it to get some critical scale to bring some additional uses into the site. So, call it 90 acres plus or minus. A master developer is the one that envisions the whole site, that builds the vision for the project, that includes, in this case, a complete mix of uses, and essentially choreographs the whole development, making sure all those uses fit and blend together in a synergistic fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a huge undertaking, right? Imagine saying you're looking at this blank space and it's not leveled out, right? So in practice, you've got this space that's hills and not really, fit for this or that. And with the uses, talk to me about the uses that are out there. Like, I know that there's a lot going on. I know, but I know you know this even better than I do. Talk to me about the 60-acre side and what's there existing, and what's coming.
Yeah, so so we started the process. Again, we were selected in the fall of 2018, and we spent essentially the entire year of 2019 building the vision for the project. And we did that by doing a number of things. We were required by the city to have one neighborhood meeting, and we had 20.
You did. You had a lot.
And we met with every group that we actually hired a consultant to help us seek out those community groups and so on that often don't have a voice. And so we listened to them and asked everyone the same question: what do you want to see and what do you not want to see at Eastland? And through all those interviews and conversations, we formulated a lot of ideas. Now, just because there's ideas, even common ideas, doesn't necessarily mean the market will support
Absolutely.
those ideas. And so we had to filter those through the lens of what would work, what would be economically viable there. But things like health and wellness, things like affordable housing, things like a public park, all of those were ideas that we heard from neighbors, and I'm proud to say we've acted on those. So to answer your question, the 60 acres roughly that is underdeveloped, we actually graded the entire site,
I know that.
all 90 acres,
Yep.
and that was about a $27 million exercise. To your point, it was not a level, even though there was a mall there, it was a multi-level mall, so there was a lot of different topography on the site that we had to contend with. There's a lot of stormwater and drainage challenges over the years, so we had to tear out all those underground utility lines and replace all of those. And so we did all of that for the entire site. But then on the, call it the western 60 acres, the first phase that we went vertical on, that we built buildings on, was a senior affordable housing development, which we're very proud of. And it is fully
awesome.
leased, 100% leased, and the residents love it, and I do as well. I'm very proud of that. The next thing we started going vertical on is the conventional apartment development. There's I think it's 274 units, and we're going to start leasing those units in October. So we're excited about that. Those projects, there's two buildings combined, total about 274 units, and we're going to start leasing those this fall. Those buildings are built on top of some first floor retail, so there's some retail that's on the ground, and that retail, we're working with prospective tenants. It's a really interesting concept. The retail space is a public-private partnership with the city, and through that partnership, we're trying to create opportunities for, I use the term indigenous business, local businesses, to either get a bricks and mortar location maybe for the first time, or to expand their operation. And so we've got some businesses that we're going to be presenting to City Council here in the next couple months for their approval, and hopefully we can move those forward and get those open. And then two other components. Saucy Burbank is building the market rate housing component, which includes single-family homes and townhomes, and they started construction. They bought their first, I think, 15 or 20 lots, and they're under construction, going vertical on
I've seen those too.
those houses.
Yeah.
And then lastly, Mecklenburg County has fully designed and permitted and now bid the about 4.5 acre park, and we're going to have a formal groundbreaking on that here in the next 45 days or so to get that park started, and that will be a gem for East Charlotte.
Absolutely.
And one that we're really, really looking forward to.
Absolutely. Wow. So, I mean, having walked the site, when you're driving down Central Avenue, you can see those buildings that are, visible from Central Avenue, and those were the ones that you named at first. And then there are some for sale houses that are already kind of behind those. That's Saucy Burbank that has, like you said, for sale houses and townhomes. I'm really excited. I'm excited about all that is already underway and all that is to come. Just for context, last year We cut the ribbon on the 72 age protected units that were Evoke Living at Eastland Yards, and to know, wow, that there are now families.
It's full.
Is
Every
full.
unit is occupied.
Every unit, all 72, they're occupied with residents that are 55 and older, and varying degrees of area median income, right?
Yep.
And the amenities in there are great. I remember when I walked the facility and I saw some of what's in there. Do you remember what's in there for the seniors that are in there? Can you tell us a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
about that?
there's fitness, there's computer room, there's of course laundry and mail and so on. But there's also a little community garden area it's a wonderful project. We're very proud of it.
Absolutely. And I also know, because again, I'm familiar with the master unit or the master plan, there's an idea for a grocery store eventually.
Yeah, so I get that question a lot. We from 2019 on, we've been site planning a grocer in the project, and we do not have a grocer yet
Okay.
locked down in the development. I can tell you firsthand that is not due to any lack of effort on our part, because
Yeah.
I'm the one making all the phone calls. I've had many conversations with grocers, and unfortunately, as of today, we don't have a grocer that says, yeah, we're going to locate there. But we're not ready to give up at this point. As Eastland continues to develop, as new residents move in, as more homes get built, the story just gets better.
Oh, yeah.
And part of the challenge that we have on that site that we've had since the very beginning, if you've been to the site, you can appreciate the fact that we have a grade change from central that drops down into the site. There, in
Oh,
some
yeah.
cases, it's a 15 to 20 foot drop off, which hampers visibility and constrains operational, truck movements and things like that. So we're trying to contend with those as we plan the overall development. But we do hope that we get some additional retail and specifically grocery there. And again, I'm working every day to try to advance that. One thing I do want to say, and this I want to say it to Marjorie and in front of the folks that are listening here. This development would not have happened absent Councilmember Molina's direct efforts. I've heard some comments that may challenge that, and they're just not the case. Marjorie's involvement from the very beginning, her support. This is a public-private partnership. The city and the county made a substantial investment in this development. Were it not for that investment, this deal would never have happened. And Councilmember Molina has been a champion from the very beginning, and she's gotten behind that, and she's pushed and prodded and cajoled her fellow council members to support this deal. And absent her push and advocacy, this thing would not have happened.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you so much. It is great partners like you that made this possible as well. A lot of what I intend to try to communicate to the residents that I have the honor representing is that, but for private partnership, there's a lot that we couldn't do, from affordable housing to, huge developments like Eastland, even with our tax dollars, because you have money in this too. We got lots of money. I mean, we talk a lot about what the city has put into this, right?
Yeah.
But this is, you literally and figuratively have skin in the game, huge skin in the game, across this project from beginning to end. Like you said, grading all 90 acres, give or take, right? And grading simply means that the land is suitable for development, and that's utility inclusion. That is the grading of the dirt, and is it favorable for certain things? It is all of these different components that someone in the development community understands way more than the rest of us even have to begin to try to understand. So for all the twists and turns that we've taken you through, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for staying dedicated to this development, to the hurdles that you've had to mount. I tell you that often because I really and
Yeah.
truly appreciate your partnership. And but for you being here and but for you sticking with us, this would not be possible. So thank you for everything that you've done. And you these are just this is a portion. You've done projects all over the city, all over this region, along up and down the East Coast, right? But in particular for the residents of East Charlotte and even West Charlotte. You got some coming in West Charlotte. We're not going to talk about that, maybe another program, but you know, where you work and what you do and the organization you represent. I'm going to go off track a little bit because you guys do spectacular work across the city to provide resources to our community. Talk to me a little bit about that.
This is not a conversation about me, though. It's about you. But I appreciate those kind words. As a real estate developer, I think I've got the best job in the whole wide world. That doesn't mean I love every minute of every day or every day of every week, but I think developers have an opportunity to imprint communities and build neighborhoods and contribute to community benefit. And there are plenty of developers that are in it just for the money, and there's nothing wrong with red meat eating capitalists.
Right.
But I think if you're able to take a higher view and say, okay, how can I improve, enhance community through a development? Often, I mean, we couldn't do development deals if we lost money on every deal. But if we look through a community benefit lens first, often the economic viability follows as well.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really good. And I think, saying developer, it gets a bad. Listen, I've heard, oh God, the rumors, I'm bought and sold because I can have a conversation with you, because I can call you. But I also, like I said, and what I'm trying to demonstrate is realize that, an affordable housing opportunity, for an example, is a development project that often the city provides what we call but for dollars, where we come in on, kind of the tail end, really, and say we would like to use some of the money that we've been entrusted with by way of the Housing Trust Fund. Right now, that's at $100 million, and say we'd like to partner with said developer, right, to have them be willing to provide affordable housing units at varying degrees of area market income for residents of all different types. And we are blessed in many respects to have, humans in the development community like you who see the value in that and continue to be great partners so that we can continue to provide resources like what we're doing at Eastland and beyond. So I think that's important for people to note, because when we say $100 million, a lot of the times it sounds, and it is, it's a lot of money. It is. But, we can't build many units. If I had $100 million, how many units could the typical developer give me? No outside, money, just the $100 million based on current market.
If you had $100 million, I'd have to do the math. You could probably do, and you didn't use any other capital sources.
None.
Let me think about that.
Average cost of a house is $450 right now.
Yeah,
$400.
an affordable housing apartment today, on average, costs about $350,000.
Wow.
So you can do the math. You can't build very many
Not at
units
all.
for $100 million. And to your point earlier, that's affordable housing is another great example about public-private partnerships. The low-income housing tax credit program is a federal program that's been around forever, and it's an absolutely terrible program. But it's the best program out there for the development of affordable housing.
Right.
But even that low-income housing tax credit program doesn't pay enough to justify the development of affordable housing. I mean, if you look at South End, okay, all those apartments in South End, you get a one-bedroom unit there. It's approaching $2,000 for rent.
Wow.
We're building the same quality apartments on affordable housing. Our Eastland Seniors deal, I would challenge anybody to look at the quality of that development, and go look at the developments in South End and compare the quality. And yet we've got one-bedroom units we've got some two-bedroom units based on income qualification that are leasing for $600, $650.
Right.
How do you make that work? Because our costs are as much or more for an affordable development as they are for a conventional development, well, you make it up through public-private partnerships, low-income housing tax credits, housing trust fund investments,
Yeah.
LISC, the Charlotte Housing Opportunity Impact Fund. Those types of things enable us to develop some of those affordable housing communities. And absent that, those investments, nothing would happen. I've heard people say, you guys, the developers, get rich on
Yep.
developing
Oh,
affordable
God,
housing.
yes.
That couldn't be further from the truth. Our company develops affordable housing and conventional housing. We develop grocery-anchored shopping centers. We do mixed-use projects. We do freestanding Chipotle's and 7-Elevens and Starbucks and so on. We do a lot of different types of development. I oversee all of that development along with my partners, and I can tell you the most difficult and highest risk product that we develop is affordable housing. We take more risk. It's a nonprofit effort, so we make no money, and it's the most complex. That's why people aren't developing. Typically, the developers of affordable housing are generally nonprofits that are missionally minded, that have funds that they raise through nonprofit means, and that's who typically develops affordable housing. Be careful. I could talk about this topic all day
No,
long.
I think it's an important one, right? Because, as our city continues to grow, a lot of what I hear from residents is the concerns around affordability,
Yeah.
right? And those are market challenges that are really governed by demand, supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
For as long as we have the demand, creating the supply, it's going to become, more intensive. And so, like I said, when we have those types of conversations, I think it's important for people to know actually how that takes place, right? I hear a lot of aspirational goals around how we would, in fact, resolve, some of the gaps where affordability lies. And like I said, that is an important note. Just while I'm on that, talk to me about are you working on any other affordable housing projects in Charlotte right now?
Yeah, we're actually under construction on Evoke Living at Ballantyne, the
Yeah.
very first affordable housing development in South Charlotte. And it's only 60 units because the site was only 2 acres and that's all we could fit on it. But we hope to be leasing those units the end of this year. And again, that'll be a family deal, meaning it's not age restricted. But that's a development that anything that could go wrong has gone wrong
Yeah.
on that development, and so it'll be especially rewarding when we finish it and lease it up. But yeah, we're working on that
Very
community
cool.
right now.
Very, very cool. So, is there anything else that you think would be important to know about the Eastland Yards project?
Well, we haven't talked yet about the east side of
Oh, yeah, that's the big
of
part.
Eastland. So we talked about Eastland having about 90 acres, 60 of which we're developing. The other roughly 25 or 30 acres, the city is leading and responsible for, and presently planned for that 25 or 30 acres is a combination of sports and
Yeah.
fitness. There are 6 soccer fields planned that the Charlotte Soccer Academy is going to maintain and operate and program. And then there's presently 100,000 square foot indoor basketball, volleyball
Yeah.
arena that's being planned, and then a few other things as well inside that. That development is moving forward. The city is negotiating with a different group to sign those documents, and the city is making an investment in that side of it. Unfortunately, we're not involved with that, but we've done a lot of the coordination and synergies in helping that group move forward, and we stand ready to help them in any way that we can going forward. But with a little bit of luck, I don't know that we'll see it before year end, but maybe first quarter next year we can have a successful groundbreaking to launch that side of the site as well.
Oh, yeah. So let me, I guess I should have said anything else about the 60 acres because now we're on those last 30 acres. Oh, my goodness. And that has been a unique challenge. right? So starting back in 2022, we had a number of different opportunities that looked at developing the 30 acres. And like you said, you weren't directly involved in the development of that part, but again, you've graded it already because of your existing projects that, require you to have to run lines. I mean, I know that because I've been involved in the conversations, but these last 25 plus acres are kind of an economic driver section, so to speak. And at that time, so just for color perspective, there were 5 different opportunities, I believed, that were reviewed over a certain amount of time, and none of them quite hit the mark for various different reasons. And then I've been on the Jobs and Economic Development Committee for the entire time that I've been elected. So taking this conversation and reviewing those particular options was something that me and the 4 colleagues that I work with on the council done by way of conversation at the multiple different stages. And so when we decided on, actually it was option A. I remember in 23 we were having a conversation, and there was kind of you know options in competition, and then there was this like one lone opportunity that was like option A. They actually were named alphabetically, option A, and then what eventually became option B I'll talk about in a second. But option A was essentially what we know today as Love and Life, that's uptown. Um, and it would have been, a venue where there would have been soccer fields, and a conversion of outdoor, economic, I guess, impact, things, concerts, and the above. But there were people who loved that, and there were people who didn't. The the Jobs and Economic Development Committee had actually voted to close accepting new applications, and about 2 or 3 months into it came this idea for this option B. And I remember when I first heard about it, and I realized that there was passion around it from the community's perspective, and so we had really no choice but to pay attention to it. We kind of bent the rules, and we went through this process to allow for option B to make their case. And the option B gained traction, like really good traction in the community. And that is the portion of this process that was the indoor sports complex. And the challenge was we had people who were then very impassioned about both of them. And it was in the middle of the 2023 election, which was very highly contentious, with Eastland on the line. And it was tough. Do you remember? I know you remember because you were there with me. You remember that. Tell me what that was like from your perspective. I know you remember that well.
Well, I'm going to speak a little freely here. After one of those contentious council meetings that went on for hours, I walked out. I was just frustrated, and I saw my friend Eric Spanberg, who writes for the Business Journal, and he put a microphone in my face and said, "What do you think?" And I looked at him and I said, "You can't make this shit up." And and I looked at him and I said, "You can't print that." And he was gracious enough not to include it. But it was very contentious. There was a lot of different things, and essentially what happened was there was a divided council. Half the council supported one idea, the other half supported another idea, and ultimately what advanced was a forced marriage between the two groups.
Absolutely.
Which in part is why it's taken so long, because they had to work through, get to know each other, and figure out how they were, who was going to do what in this development. And so you've got the 6 soccer fields and some of the activities around those, and then you've got the indoor facility and some of the activities around those, and those are different groups that are leading those different components. And it seems like they blended very well over these last months and have made a lot of progress. And like I said, I'm very hopeful that the city can finalize the documents that they are working on today and get to a formal groundbreaking soon.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That meeting, I remember that meeting very, very well. Just a little bit of behind the scenes is exactly what Tim said. It was so highly contentious. It was electric, right? Very impassioned people on both sides. Behind the scenes, this is what it looked like. Literally, my colleagues and I were divided, right? And I was completely just disjointed because most of the people in this conversation I represent. So how do I win? It's kind of a win or lose situation. Like, how do I win without losing some people? And I think the most one of the hardest decisions that I've had to make in leadership, because to say either or is really saying to one group of people that you're I don't value what you say. And I remember the night before the vote, I'm calling around. This is what you call caucusing. This is what gets things done. There is no such thing as one human coming in and saying, "I'm great all by myself, and I'm just that human that's going to do things alone." The challenge and the opportunity in leadership, especially in the elected seat, is to make your case to people who have different views than you do, and to say, here is what I think, and I'd like to know what you think, and is there a compromise that we can make? And in that exercise, I'm, talking to my colleagues, seeing where they sit. And I remember the night I was speaking to Victoria Watlington. That's kind of how the idea of merging the two came. We really just talking, and she's like, "Well, Marjorie, where you sit?" Well, I actually asked her. I was like, "Where do you sit? Well, like, what do you think and why?" And she was diehard option B. She was diehard option B, and I'm like, I'm torn. I mean, I got two groups, and we're talking, and we're like, "Well, what happens if we can put them together? You think that would work?" And we knew how divided the council was when we had the conversation that night. And she had people who she knew who were die hard on one side. And I'm actually talking to people on both sides. And I remember I had to call Tarek because he was option A. And I was like, "Hey, Tarek." I was talking to Victoria, and she was like, I'm saying their first name. So I was talking to Councilwoman Watlington. I'm saying to Councilmember Bakari, like, and, we were talking about, could we put these things together? And I was like, can you call, some people that and see what they be willing? And he was like, in Tarek fashion, right? "Oh yeah, well, let me see." He said a few explicatives, and a few hours later, he called me back and told me that the people he knew were interested. So he really took the baton and absolutely advocated, right? So this is where it then became a team effort. This is where we were divided as a council, right? Because this is, in my mind, what leadership looks like. Absolutely. This is when leadership rises to the occasion of meeting the moment and saying, now we're working as a team. And we started to work as a team. This is behind the scenes. And within 48 hours, we developed really close to a consensus.
But that's an example that I was referring to before. Without that kind of leadership, we would have reached a stalemate and nothing would have advanced, and
Yep.
that would not have been good for the project. And so I want to thank you again. I thank you then. I'll thank you now for being willing to think outside of the box, to use the relationships that you had built, the trust that you had forged over the years with your colleagues. And you've mentioned names that are on different sides of the political
Completely
spectrum.
different.
And absent the trust that you had developed on both sides of the political aisle, this deal would not have advanced. And so thanks again for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we have been into a degree of success in, bringing those two together. And we've allocated a total of $41 million in two different votes for that particular portion. And that's just the city's implementation. So I want to make sure that I'm clear. The private industries on both sides actually are putting their money into this too. So it is private money and public money. But the public money, by way of the taxpayers' trusted amount, is $41 million that we have as far as the stake is concerned. in this now, you know, merged project.
And lest anybody question it, that is a lot of money, and we know that. The city staff went through with a fine-tooth comb every number, every spreadsheet, every financial model that we had developed. In addition to that, they hired third-party consultants
Yeah.
that they paid to come in and forensically analyze every number on every spreadsheet that we had done, and they signed off, and the city staff signed off, and so I can assure you that the public dollars, both the city and the county, the public dollars that are going in, this deal would not have happened but for those dollars, and those dollars allowed us to just eke out a viability threshold. And what I mean by that is there's not outsized profits in this deal. I can
Yeah.
I can promise you that.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So on the 30-acre side, how would you sum it up? Any thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, I I want to see the groundbreaking, and I'll rest easier when that happens. But I'm excited about the opportunities there. I think the uses that are going there are as good as they can be. I know they'll benefit the rest of our development, but they'll certainly benefit all of East Charlotte and beyond. I think even that indoor facility that we're talking about, they anticipate having local, regional, and national tournaments there.
Absolutely.
They could be activating that, with tournaments every weekend and active with, local groups all week long. So, I mean, they're going to bring a ton of people. Those soccer fields, like every other soccer field in the Charlotte area, are going to be activated
Yeah.
a ton, and you get that kind of energy and activity. We like to use the term that one of the architects coined. Eastland Yards could become the community living room for East Charlotte, and we hope and pray that happens. I mean, that county park is going to be amazing.
So excited about
The
that
county
part.
has done a fabulous job with focus groups and getting input from their constituency and coming up with the design that is remarkable, and I can't wait for all of you to see that as well.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. Shout out to Chair of the County Commission, Mr. Marjorie,
Yeah,
a very longtime friend of mine. Mark and I, we've been friends for, God, 15, 20 years.
wonderful guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to do radio together.
Wow.
Mark and I did radio together many years ago. That's kind of, you think about the intergovernmental summits we've had. There's great synergy because we have, a community action-based relationship where we've both been very active over the years together in the community doing various different projects. And so talking to my counterpart, who we have the, honor of also sharing as the chair of the county commission, is definitely a formidable partner from the county's perspective, and they've partnered with us many, many times, including Eastland, to bring, to bear the resources of the county as well. TIGs, which is, tax increment grants, the park, and so many other different things that also made this project possible. So you bring a good point in bringing that up. Thank you for mentioning that. That's good. And actually, I know the groundbreaking, he's going to be there. So I got to call and be like, hey, Mark, I'm coming to the groundbreaking. Highlight, my counterpart, my partner in the great work that the county is also doing. So
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Well, Tim, it is absolutely a pleasure to have worked with you. I am so thankful to the Most High for your partnership, for your dedication, for your belief in me in this community. And when they talk about the history of Eastland Yards, you will absolutely be at the forefront of what made this possible. So thank you for everything.
And will you be as well? Thanks, Marjorie, for that. Thank you.
Absolutely.